Om Namo Bhagavate Ramakrishnaya. Om. Salutations to Bhagavan Ramakrishna. Ramakrishna's devotional teachings. We are on the 11th aphorism. Sri Ramakrishna teaches us all doubts disappear after the realization of God. The original is Take Darshan, that after the vision of God. This is something that will haunt you at every step, especially of your spiritual life. Of course, spiritual life. And then things haunt you. Is there an afterlife? And human life is beset with doubt. The more externalized we are, the stronger the doubts. The more inward we look, the doubts are less. Even that unshakable belief in I exist, even this is doubted. When we fall into a swoon or something, or we fall asleep, where the sense of existence also goes away. So what is? Forget God, your own existence is doubtful. And now, thanks to all modern knowledge, this external world also is doubtful. So, it's not only God is the subject of doubt. You, the world, and that includes God also then. The original is saying, Take darshan hole sab sangshaya mite jai. All doubts disappear after the realization of the vision of God. In one of the Upanishads called the Mundaka, they speak about, the verse goes, when the knots of the heart are cut asunder, all doubts are dissipated. And that which is the high and the low is seen. Vidyate hridaya granti chidyante sarva samshaya. Chiyante chasya, all karmas are finished, are blown out. When that which is tasmin drishti, with that which is high and the low is seen. Here in the heart, deep within, heart in the sense not a physical heart, in the core of your being, there is something called a knot of ignorance. It's spoken of variously, a knot of ignorance, and a knot where consciousness and matter, as it were, are tied together. They come together. It is in Vedanta, it's called a Chid Jad Granthi. Chit is consciousness, Jad. How can these two things, which are of an opposite nature, continue to exist? And that's what the Upanishads say, Vidyate Hridaya Granthi. When the knots of the heart cut asunder. Now we can see how we can get rid of all doubts only after the vision of God. But if you start with this idea God does not exist, and then what happens is you will have big problems. Does God exist or no? So what happens is, here you find in the lives of saints, in the life of people who have had the vision of God, they speak with authority, certainty. In their words, there is no doubt. All the doubts which you have coming, you will see coming from the so-called philosophers. All the philosophers, and everybody considers themselves philosophers. With a two-bit philosophy, they read something, or they take a kind of a salad of everything, and they find everybody thinks very philosophical about life, about what is destiny, what is birth, death, everything is philosophy. They philosophize. This is very true if you go to India. They will not do anything, they will just philosophize. They're good. They'll cook up some philosophy otherwise. Even a street vendor, he'll give you a earful of philosophy. So we all philosophers. But there's a difference between people who have seen God. Have you seen God? Yeah, that Sri Ramakrishna was asked this. Swami Vivekananda, he had practiced meditation all his life, since he was a baby. And then he goes to Sri Ramakrishna. His search was genuine. And then he goes and asks this question. So it's a question of a seeker. It's not a question of these philosophers who kind of armchair philosophers. No. There's no bite in it. So that's a different. So then what Sri Ramakrishna? Yes, I've seen God. I've seen him more intensely than God can be seen more intensely. Then you can see this world. I see him more intensely than I see this world. So the vision of God is more intense than what your sensory system and your mental system can give that perception. It is far beyond it. It's very intense. So yesterday we were reading about Swami Shivananda, and he says, it's unbelievable that Sri Ramakrishna, God himself had come down as an incarnation. Now this he says in his extreme mature years of spiritual life, saying we used to interact with them, he molded our lives, etc. But here it was. So the words themselves become kind of ringing. And this is you find in the lives of all mystics and all saints, of all religions, of all cultures, everywhere. It is there. So when you keep on reading the lives of these people, then what happens is, yes, there's a certitude that grows. There is something called astikya buddhi. It is the intelligence or conviction of God exists. And as the Upanishad, asti eti eva upalabdhavya. If you start with the idea that it exists, then you will attain that thing. Asti iti eva upalabdhavya tattva bhavena chobhaya. Asti iti eva upalabdhavya tattva bhava prasidati. So you start with And for spiritual aspirants, the very first step is God exists. Otherwise, your spiritual disciplines has got no meaning behind it. Oh, maybe not. No. You better be convinced now before you start your spiritual journey. And this is what takes you. Now, there's a whole universe there. It's a massive world, unbelievably vast, of cosmic proportions. And when you look at this, where does your God fit in? Forget about God fitting into your lives. The problems of evil. The problems of evil have come because the vision of life and the world had become so narrowed. This mine. How to solve this problem? When you look at the universe, it's huge. The problem of evil is, what was God doing? I don't think then there is a God. Look at the evil around. A better view is, look at this vast universe. 13.8 billion years vast. Then where is God here? How do you fit in God? Now we will say, how do you fit the universe into God? They're saying, does God exist? So I humorously told on somebody, does the world exist? Why didn't you ask this question? Oh, yeah. Even the world exists, it's doubtful. So start questioning. We start with that initial faith. And this feeling that God exists. And then proceed. And as you proceed externally, internally. As I said, the more externally you go, the more your faith becomes shaky. Look at this. The more internally you go, the more firm it becomes, your faith in the existence of God. Okay. And as Sri Ramakrishna says, all doubts disappear after the realization of God. This is wonderful. Then you'll say, okay. Swamiji, at one stage of his life, he went through a lot of crises. His father had died. Then they were thrown out of their home, ancestral homes, etc. They were just out on the streets, as it were. No job, no nothing. And then he was saying, why, how, in a world that has a God who is compassionate, how does that exist? And in the meantime, there were some his old friends, they were singing some songs about here blows a breeze of Brahman. And Swamiji, he snapped at him. Quite enough. It's all right for all these kind of things, whose belly is full and whose life is comfortable, etc. And somehow a garbled report reaches Sri Ramakrishna. Naren, saying, we could not believe, Naren, that Swami Vivekananda would sink so low. And Sri Ramakrishna was so annoyed, saying, shut up. One more word and I'm not going to look at your face. The Divine Mother said, that can never be. Swamiji can never be an atheist. And then we know, when he comes to Sri Ramakrishna, Sri Ramakrishna sends him to the temple, and then he goes and he sees the Divine Mother standing there. So that was there. So, and another incident where in this realm of God, why does such diabolical things have to happen? And so one day he was walking in the streets of Calcutta, and he was hungry and weak from hunger, and he swooned and fell. And then he's saying, internally, I found veils after veils that were covering my soul, opening up. And I saw why this world has to be something like this. And he woke up from that state. He saw that it had rained and he had fallen in the outer plinth of a house. He got up refreshed. He decided, I will leave the world. So his answers came from that soul from which all the veils had been removed off. So when we come to that stage, then we'll say, there's no doubt. The next 12th is anything impossible with the grace of God? Suppose you bring a light in a room that has been dark for 1,000 years. Does it remove the darkness little by little? The room is lighted all at once. Here it is. And this is his favorite illustration, which is oft repeated by all of us. A room that has been dark for 1,000 years, does the light remove it little by little? It removes it instantaneously. So 1,000 years of regret and evil and sin and hopelessness and all these things that were, as I say, you were living with them in that room, the room of your life. So in your subtle body is like that room, and all the darkness is there, the darkness of ignorance. And the light is brought up, and immediately the darkness goes. So this also can be called an extension of the previous aphorism, that all doubts disappear after the realization. So immediately. So is anything, it's a long aphorism. Tar daya hole ki na hoy. হাজার বছরের অন্ধকার ঘরে আলো আনালে কি একটু একটু করে অন্ধকার যায়? একেবারে আলো হয়, instantaneously. So where was the room? Yes, I said this, your mind is the room, and all the doubts and all the karmas and all the ignorance, everything is there. And then where is the light? The light is there. So it's giving an illustration. You bring light in a room that's been dark for 1,000 years, and light dispels the darkness instantaneously. But now here, who's going to bring the light here? The light is within. Where is that? What is that light? The light of God, the presence of God. That is the light. And like Swamiji's, the veils were ripped apart, and then he saw the light within. This happens, as he says, by the grace of God. Nothing is impossible. In fact, He makes the impossible possible. That is. Why? Because as we have seen, His will creates, etc. His power is everywhere. One who realizes God is only able to go beyond Maya, etc. So you see the subject matter of this first chapter is the purpose of life. Because the purpose of life has to be first enumerated to the aspirant, then the means, etc. In all scriptures, the purpose of life is, and then you find, oh, what is the purpose of life? This, to see God. As Sri Ramakrishna says, to see God is the goal of human life, as we've seen in the previous aphorisms. So, is anything impossible for God? So, the word uses grace, is translated grace, but it is, the original is daya, compassion. Yeah, now you say, oh, that person is very compassionate. Suppose we have a person whose X is very compassionate. Okay. Now, is compassion different from that person? Can you separate, as Swamiji says, qualities from substance? Impossible. Can you separate redness from that skin of the apple? It's a quality of that particular thing. The coolness of water, okay. So the water we can understand. Water can be hot also, yeah, we see. But the essential nature at that time is one with that substance. So in Indian philosophy, it's called a guna and dravya. Dravya is substance, guna is quality. So they're one. Of course, you can extract it, bring it. Like in some of these, it's called a qualia. The experience, the intense experience. You don't see things in black and white. It's called, if you want to understand, it's called Jane's room. Jane has been living in a room which is all black and white for years, and she doesn't know any color. Suddenly somebody brings a red apple. What's that experience? That's called a qualia. So what I'm trying to get is that God's grace and God are not separate. So there's God and there's grace. Or compassion. It's one. So when you say God's grace, yeah, it's God. So, oh, thank goodness gracious. They don't want to use the word God. Thank God gracious. Goodness gracious. So when you have the grace of God, it is you have God. If you make a distinction between these two, then you're going to have philosophical problems and problems in life also. So, is anything impossible with the grace of God? No, nothing, because it's God Himself. And like when you bring a light into a room, when God comes into your life, all that ignorance, all the darkness and everything goes away immediately. As I said, tasmin drishti paravare, when that which is the higher and the lower is seen in sense, is realized. So this is what is important here. The 13th aphorism, who indeed can understand Him through reasoning. So all should strive for devotion to the lotus feet of God. I'll read the original because it will fix in my mind at least. Tar vishaya ke vichar kore bujbe. Tar pad padde bhakti jate hoy tai sokoler kora uchit. Yeah. Who can like objectify God and reason upon it? That's what the real meaning will be. Why? And Vedanta and all these things have been saying, oh, you've got to use your reason. Yes, you use a reason to remove your own doubts and your own misgivings and your own biases. That's it. So the intellect can go only this much. Swami Vivekananda, when he was in the US, a devotee asked, sometimes I feel I should take my intellect and bundle it up and throw it out. But one lady, she says, oh, but that's what we really are impressed about you. Then he says, that's because, madam, you are a fool like me. Swami Vivekananda, in his practical Vedanta, he speaks about the intellect is only a street cleaner. So it cleans the streets. Love is what gives you the vision of God. Intense love. Yes, and then there are, of course, the knowledge and love, etc., are not different. Because what happens in the intellect, there is always duality, doubts, etc., etc. So this intellect is not competent to realize it. Impossible. With this intellect, so then what? Then that's what all the yoga philosophies and all the religion, they speak of something called the purification of the mind, the chitta shuddhi. Slowly and slowly, the mind is purified. So what does it mean, man? Yes, you're disabling your karmas. You're disabling your biases. So how do you start the whole thing? Yes, now this is where the best way to cleanse your mind and make your intellect firm to be as a street cleaner is to stick to truth. Oh my, that is a terrible, yeah, but that is what it is. So you stick to truth, you proceed, then everything will become clear. So, sorry. When the mind is pure, Sri Ramakrishna says, the pure mind, the pure intellect, and the pure Atman is one. That is, it reflects perfectly. In his Bengali, he says, Shuddha Mon, Shuddha Buddhi, Shuddha Atma, Ek. At that stage, the mind has become purified, the intellect has become so purified. So you see the Atman directly as it is. As we spoke in the beginning, that there is a kind of a knot in the heart, Hridaya Granthi. And that is the reflection of consciousness in matter. Like matter and consciousness, as it were, they have become tied together. This reminds me like when Alexander the Great was asked about untying that Gordian knot. It's very famous. There was a there was a there was a chariot which had a very complicated knots tied, and they said in the temple, which is ancient Anatolia, which is now Turkey. So if you can open, the one who unraveled the knot will be the emperor of the world. And many great heroes had come and tried. And what did Alexander do? He takes his sword, cuts it off. Hey, that's not fair. Knot is unraveled. It doesn't matter how I unravel. So this is the exact, you can say, illustration for when the knots are cut asunder. Cut asunder. When there is tremendous love for God, then he says, that's what he says. All should strive for the devotion to the lotus feet of God. Why? Because in love, there is no fear, there is no bargaining, etc. Swamiji is a triangle of love. And then third angle, first, love knows no fear, love knows no bargaining, and the third is love for love's sake. There is no other element to it. So love for love's sake, that is the highest expression of love. So when you have that love, then all ideas of separateness have gone away. True love comes for God. So you must strive for this, because in the next chapter, he will speak about, and this book is on the devotional teachings of Sri Ramakrishna. How devotion, how bhakti can quickly lead you to the highest realm of spirituality. So, like Sri Ramakrishna, and he also speaks about, and even the scriptures say, as Sri Ramakrishna gives the illustration of nobody can go into the inner chambers. In the old days, there was a place where there was the women's quarter. They used to call it the zanana. Nobody could go inside there. But those who were familiar with that could go inside. Those who lived in the house and they knew, they could go inside. So bhakti is that which can go into the inner chambers of the heart. Inner chambers and see. Intellect is left behind. Not trying to demean the intellect and all. Like a street cleaner keeps on cleaning. But finally it is love. And then what happens? There is an overpowering of this feeling of love. And it is everywhere. You just felt in your cells even. Sri Ramakrishna, when he used to go into samadhi, etc., and you see immediately, he sees something and goes into samadhi. And in his teachings and when you read his gospel of life, constantly going to samadhi. And his faith used to be like full of, it's radiant and blissful. And he used to weep from the corner of his eye. Not weep, there are three types of tears, more or less. The tears of pain, tears of joy, and tears of anguish, etc. There's another one, tears of shame. Shame also. But here Sri Ramakrishna, tears of joy used to roll down his sometimes, saying his whole shirt used to be tears of joy. What gives you joy? That love. At that point, when Sri Ramakrishna is in the state of Samadhi, he is one with God. That is, one with God through love. And God is love. So when you say, I think I've been teaching this, there's a big doubt about God. Yes. Where do I start searching? Suppose I begin searching. Where do I start? Search it in love. Do you feel love? If you feel love, that's a place where you start your spiritual journey. But I feel love everywhere. You start there, somewhere. There's a feeling there. Start. This is the most tangible expression of God's existence. So earlier I said, you better start with the side. All spiritual expressions start with that God exists, asti iti, and then start. Now I've come down, okay, where does the existence, what is the existence? Is hanging somewhere in the air, floating somewhere? No. The feeling of love. Hold on to that feeling of love. That is God. And if you can make it grow and grow and grow, there's nothing like that. So this is that who can understand? Sri Ramakrishna used to sing that song. Who can understand you, O Kali? Even the 6 systems of philosophy are unable to comprehend you. Shad darshan payena darshana. So this like. Who can know you if you don't reveal yourself? And God reveals herself through this feeling of love here. If you feel it, if you have felt it, you feel it, let it grow. Then you see how it changes you. It changes you. Your relationship with others also changes. Your relationship with the world also changes, obviously. They say, no, all the world loves a lover. Yeah. All the world loves a lover of God. That's a better way. Only thing, this great love has been made mundane, cheap, material, debased. Purify it, and that will give you the idea of love. It's a tremendous power. It's the greatest power in the universe, in the world, in your life. If you have that, nurture it, cultivate it, there's nothing like it. This is the 13th aphorism. The 14th one is a little long, and it is a little philosophical. But it ends up in this. So we leave that for next time. That's after 2 weeks. We'll take this up. Before you go in for the questions, there are no questions here. Tomorrow, 7 p.m., Swami Brahmatmananda will read and discuss the Gospel of Holy Mother. That's a wonderful, you can say. I will encourage all of you. Holy Mother has made everything simple. There has never been more simplified teachings of the Upanishads, of the Vedas, of all scriptures, of everything, and Holy Mother. So it's via Google Meet. You can download the link from our website or go to our newsletter. You'll get it. Friday, 7 p.m., self-knowledge, Atma Bodh. This will be part 9. This is the study group. Sunday, 9:50 a.m., Mother's Children, which is our Sunday school. 10 a.m., Shankaracharya, the boy who shook the world. Because on Friday, Saturday, we have his birthday, Shankaracharya's birthday. So it's a worldwide celebration. And to honor his memory and his contribution, I will be speaking on Shankaracharya, the boy who shook the world. It is still shaking. That it is not in the past tense, it's still shaking. And also in the evening, 7 p.m., we have Ram Naam. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.